First question. What's your take on the election?
Ooh, what's our take on the election? All right,
It's a big one.
I'll go first. I got 3 points of my take on the election. For anyone listening, I like politics. I think it's interesting, but I don't care that much about it, but I think it's cool. But this is something that we talk about a lot. And I like Trump and you like Biden, or at least voted for. But all right, so my first take, I think the Democrats, I think if you look at politics as a game, I think they just did an amazing job. They used the virus to their advantage. The coronavirus, COVID, the pandemic, the name's always changing, but they use it to their political advantage. And it's funny when you see them protesting and partying when it fits their, fits what they want. But the fear in politics kind of works. And they say, never waste a good crisis. And it kind of played into Trump being an asshole thing, which was always their thing. When he didn't wear the mask, they're like, oh, so that was really smart politically. And then also mail-in voting. So my second take is about, I don't think mail-in voting is fair, but it was the rules of the game. Like the Electoral College, some people complain about, but that's the rules. So this year around, that was the rules. We have to do online voting in the future. I don't think it's fair because people don't need an ID, and also moms and shit. And they can send in them, their kids, maybe their aunt, or not their aunt, people in their family. I think they could send in a few of people who might not have gone to the polls. But that was a huge advantage for the Democrats. And Trump never said to his people, mail in. He was all go to the polls. And that turned out to be,
right?
Yeah, that turned out to be a disadvantage in the game of the election. And also, I trust the results of the election. I always trusted them ever since Trump won the first time. And then I trust them this time. I trust that the votes were counted right. Do I think some people's moms sent theirs in? I do. But I think they were counted fairly. And my last take, I'll let you go, is I'm sad and I am going to miss Donald Trump. I love that guy. I truly believe he's one of the greats. And this doesn't help that, I don't think. Obviously, they didn't get reelected. And also, besides for that, I want it in 4 years from now to have a whole new era of politics, new issues, new people. But honestly, in next election, it could be Trump versus Biden again. Who knows? Grover Cleveland was the only president that did 4 years, lost, and then came back and won again. So I'm kind of bummed that there's going to be dragged out another 4 years of this standard politics stuff. But those are my 3 takeaways.
Yeah. I don't disagree with a lot of what you said. For me, the big takeaway is how in the world are we still doing mail-in ballot? In today's day and age, how have we not figured out a way to do this online or electronically somehow? That's the big thing. It seems like such an antiquated way of doing things, even with the pandemic. We knew, anyone who was using their brain.
It was because of the virus. We never would have done it without it.
But it always existed, right? And there's obviously going to be an influx. And then also, Pennsylvania, for instance, didn't start counting votes, mail-in votes, until the day of the election, which in any other year is probably fine. How did they not have the foresight to say, hey, we're going to have 1 million extra mail-in ballots. Let's start counting them when we get them. I don't get that. I don't understand what's the purpose? Is it to avoid leaks? I guess, why not just start counting them early? That way we're not waiting a week.
I have no idea. You want to know what else I don't like about mail-in ballots? Is one of the fun things about politics is when Trump said grab him by the pussy, there's some stuff that happens towards the end, a November surprise, or whatever the people say the last couple of days. That kind of takes that energy. When Hillary got, what was it? The James Comey said they were going to look back into it. That was a couple days before. So nothing a couple days before had the effect that it did in the past.
But there was nothing really that happened. You know what I mean? There's nothing that spicy. I feel like this election season seemed first of all, it seemed like it lasted forever. And maybe that's because of the pandemic or what, but it was a long time. And it felt like the 2 campaigns, there was nothing really special. The only thing that happened was Trump would have his in-person, and then Democrats would freak out because of coronavirus. And then Biden would have his social distance ones, and the Republicans would say he can't draw a crowd. So it was just the same thing over and over. So to be honest, it's a relief that part of it's over. I can't say I'm surprised by how your boy Donnie is handling everything. It's exactly what you love about him. What I don't like about him, he's being such a melodramatic baby about everything. And there's enough people. Who knows? I'm not against confirming that all these votes were legit. And it seems like there's no evidence for it, and he's just like pounding his drum, and he's just like, it's fake, and it just seems like he's being a little bit of a baby. But
he's
hey,
he's definitely
recounting.
He's definitely being a baby, and it's funny. Out of all there's no like thing that you're like, ooh, that could be that could be a problem. Everything's just like, no, actually, we just counted them, and we were took us a couple days, we got it right. Like there's not one thing I've heard that gives me any reason to believe or confidence that it's going to be turned over. Like there's not one piece of like thing where I hear it as the average person being like, ooh, that's good. He's just saying, count the legal votes, not the illegal votes. Like what's an illegal vote?
I mean, I love the like juxtaposition of the half of his people chanting, count the votes, count the votes. Which is what they were doing. Like that's what they're doing.
But then the other half
is saying, stop the vote. So like, what are we doing here? And it's ironic that there's only discrepancies in the states that he lost. But I mean, it's something that's crazy. It's razor thin. Like Arizona, they're just now getting to, almost 2 weeks after the election. And they're just now getting to a point where they're like, we're confident that Biden won. But I mean, it's crazy. It's
50-50. I mean, the election is essentially a tie. Like it was 50-50. And it was like that last time too. I always ask older people this, and I've never gotten a good answer because in 1988 or something like that, 1984, Reagan won 49 out of 50 states.
Mm-hmm.
Like 49 out of 50 states. And I've asked like my mom about that. And she's just like, I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention to politics then. Like, I wonder what the feeling was like then. Obviously, it probably wasn't as intense or in the news that much. I mean, politics have always been boring. No one really cared that much until Trump came along.
Well, because for a couple of reasons. Obviously, he's polarizing with his personality, but he's also like by far the most present on social media that any president's ever been. You know, like he was always so public with his life. So we know so much about him. It's interesting. I always think about like in 20 years, politicians are going to like there's going to be no hiding. There's going to be no covering up their past misdiscretions because it's all going to be out there. Like look at their Facebook from when they're 19. Are they being creepy? Like there's going to be no secrets. So that's probably a good thing, but it's going to be interesting to see like what's exposed.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's already out there now, but more social media stuff. And like, honestly, I don't care. Like if I see a picture of someone partying in high school, I'm like, okay, whatever. Like,
right. And I think that's overwhelmingly what people are thinking now. But, you know, the two people that just ran for president are both 75 and older. So like, we don't have pictures, you know, like was Trump. Yeah. Did photographs exist when Trump and Biden were born? I don't know.
I mean, there was like this story on like the New York newspapers back in the 80s where I remember one of the headlines was like, he divorced Ivana and he married Marla Maples, a second wife. And that was all in the news about the divorce. And one of the headlines was like, the best sex I've ever had from Marla Maples. He always tried to like put stories like into the news that were like, you know, eye-catching, and also kind of, he went on Howard Stern a lot and said like embarrassing stuff. Like I like that about him, that he can overcome some of these like negative, profane stories about him. But I've never been that good at explaining why I like him. I mean, part of it is, I guess part of it's business and taxes, like basic politics stuff. I'm a business person. I want politics to be pro-business. That's the least important part. I love how he can overcome every obstacle. Like he's seriously like, once something bad happens, he just instantly moves forward and starts something else. And I love his ability to overcome things and just keep moving forward. And I just love his attitude. I've studied every single president and I've memorized all the presidents. I love presidential history. And I always thought I do.
But like, you know their names.
I know their names, but I also like, I've at least watched a few times like the History Channel ones that give you a little bit about each one. Like I've heard about the Grover Cleveland thing before, where he was president and he got pissed at this other guy won, and then he came in after that. But the presidents that I remembered, there's two things that they can be remembered by. One is like if there's a big war, a big event, like the Civil War. Abe Lincoln would have just been another guy if there was no Civil War. And then there's other people that just get remembered for their fucking spirit. And that's like Teddy Roosevelt. He got shot once and he kept doing a speech. He used to like box in the White House, like that brute American attitude. He's like, go ride buffalo. And he also did some things on the left, some things on the right. He broke up big businesses. He was a president that's remembered just by like his attitude and his energy. And like, I always thought Trump would be remembered as that And the one thing I think he'll be remembered for the most is being the first non-politician. And if someone watches the documentary one day, they'll see all this baby people on the left saying like, and identity politics, all this shit. And he came in and just like wiped it out. And I think I was so happy when he won for that reason. And I think it's gotten a lot better since then.
I think he's the opposite of Teddy Roosevelt, because exactly what you just said, he like united the country, got everyone on the same page, kind of rallied around a common goal, and like, let's all move forward together. And I've told you this before. I think in Trump's mind, his biggest enemy isn't like North Korea. It's not China. It's Americans that didn't vote for him. That's like his biggest enemy.
It's funny how history's it's funny how history's written though, because Teddy Roosevelt, I know a couple of things people are mad at him for. One, the guy Mark Twain hated Teddy Roosevelt. Those two were like a battle. It's kind of like Hollywood versus Republican. And then actually Teddy Roosevelt was the first president to have a black person in the White House for dinner. And people were pissed at him. Like you look back and he has a great legacy and you remember that he united the country. But I mean, I don't think he necessarily united the country, but he did the Panama Canal. But it's just history ages like over all these little details. And I thought that over time, all these little like annoying stories of his would like fade off and only like the good things would be remembered. But yeah, I guess
not a lot of, I would say there's not a ton of like the people that are going to be writing the history books are probably not going to remember him well. And I would say,
I mean, especially that he lost.
And, right, but even his presidency, so divisive.
Yeah.
The way that the last year was no good. Last year has been really bad for him.
The coronavirus is bad for him.
Really bad. He did a terrible job handling it, not just like his policies, but the way that he approached it was just awful. You know what I mean?
And the way that
you get caught with your pants down, and he just pretends it's I don't know. It's just like a microcosm of him, and the reason that people don't like him. So
the way that he approached it was, don't worry about it, don't let it bother you, just move forward. Like it is what it is type of attitude, and that just doesn't make people feel safe. Like Shelby's dad, for people listening, my wife Shelby, her dad voted for Trump, and then he voted for Biden just because he said he watched him during those coronavirus things that were on 6 o'clock every day during March, and he's like, I just don't like this guy. He's just being annoying. Like he definitely didn't help him. It didn't help him to have that pandemic. It was not a great strength for him.
Throughout that all the social injustice and like not being able to like,
I hated him. I hated him for a month during that George Floyd thing. I thought it was so obvious to just go out there, give a unifying speech. He did kind of buckle down into like his side. And yeah, I guess he's divisive. I can agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of people that are just coming at him that are also divisive on the other side. I mean,
sure. They
just put a little cuter package on it.
It's just more pandering. Like he panders to the people that on the other side. But I mean, you're right. And it's tough because everybody in like Hollywood and entertainment, they're all obviously so biased against Trump that you can see right through it. So anyone who's on the fence, they're like, oh, fuck that. I'm going to be like, that's all a bunch of baloney. At least this guy shoots it straight, which it's true. I just hate everything that he kind of stands for. So.
Shoot straight. Last thing on this is like, what do you think the Biden presidency will look like?
I think it's going to be kind of standard, like it has been before Trump. You know what I mean? Like probably not shaking too many trees, probably not making that big of a splash. Who knows? I mean, the healthcare stuff like that, to be honest, it's important for sure. It's a little bit boring to me. I don't really understand or care all that much. I want people to have healthcare. I get that. I do think that people that are saying like, oh, he's a communist, he's a socialist. I mean, Biden is pretty much right down the middle, like as moderate as you can get in today's Democratic Party. So, I mean, the question is going to be like, his health. I know a lot of people are saying Kamala is going to be taken over. She doesn't have a great track record. I mean, it's awesome that she's a woman, first woman VP, but we'll see. I mean, I don't see whoever won it. And obviously, if Trump won it, there would be no third term. But I don't know that I see. He's kind of like a transition, kind of a stop.
Yeah, I think it'll be boring, and I think maybe life can go back to normal a little bit, which is a lot of people voted for. Yeah, I mean, I sometimes get mad at myself over the past 4 years, like paying attention to politics too much. I mean, it's not that important. That's my main philosophy about politics is really who cares, and that can go away. So that's the one thing I'm kind of looking forward to, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And the stock market, the stock market is going up because there's, I guess, like Republicans and all those other spots. So it'll just probably gridlock, boring, and people can worry about other shit.
I mean, everybody flipped out 4 years ago when Trump won. The world was going to end. Like it didn't. You know, there's been a little bit more unrest, but I don't know how much this affects. The older I get, the less I think that this sort of thing really affects people. You can't really get much done.
And people said Obama was going to be a communist like 8 years ago. I remember my aunt and uncle were so pissed that like Obama was going to turn us into communists. He didn't. Like everyone,
but he was just like cool. Obama was cool as a cucumber.
So cool.
So you can't knock him for that. You see that video of him draining that corner three?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, that was awesome.
I do think Trump. I think Trump is cooler, honestly, in my opinion. But not
That's
smoother.
Where we'll disagree for sure.
All right, let's move on to the next topic.
Uncool, but yeah. All right, let's do it.